Sweet.
Yeah. Nice shirt.
You too. Welcome, Donna. You're our first attendee. Go ahead and post in the chat what organization you're from and what you're looking to get out of today, just as we wait for a couple more people to file in before we start at 10.
I feel like I should maybe sing to everyone or beatbox, or we should have some kind of entertainment.
I could be on board with an Ernie beatboxing.
No, I can't do that. That was Linda's thing. I don't want to take over that, but I'll come up with something cool.
Welcome, Eric. I love the name. Welcome, Javier, Suzanne, Gayla as well. Again, just go ahead and post in the chat what organization you're from, what you're looking to get out of today. Provide a little context before we get into things.
Cool.
Suzanne from YMCA in Danvers, Massachusetts. Awesome. Are you guys having to close down now with the second lockdown? Or were you able to open up at all? Awesome. St. Vincent de Paul, North Idaho, looking for ideas for content, best use of Instagram, and demographics. Great. Gayla is new to Giving Tuesday fundraising. Awesome. We can touch on that.
Yeah, we definitely can at the end. That'll be awesome.
Awesome. Suzanne says she's using social media to host live events and fundraise. Are you doing any virtual events, Suzanne? Eric wants to generate awareness, engagement, and donations. Definitely understand that. We'll be hitting on mostly strategies to generate donations. Awesome. Annual fundraiser is going virtual. Yeah, we've run a good amount of virtual events. Definitely have some advice for those. Awesome. Gayla says looking to reach younger people to get them to register to vote and get out to vote for upcoming runoff elections. Cool. We'll give this a couple more minutes for people to join.
That's really cool for Gayla. We've done a few campaigns along something like that, and it's always super fun to do that. So we'll definitely we could definitely touch on that as well.
Jan is looking for fundraising help. Big focus today. Yes, they are, Gayla. All eyes are on Georgia. We'll give it about a minute and a half, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Suzanne says she'll have to leave a few minutes before 2. No worries, we will be sending over the recordings afterwards. So if you can't make the whole thing, that's okay. Although we would encourage you to stay to ask questions at the end and get some live Q&A. Cool. We'll give it about 1 more minute and then we'll go ahead and get into it. Jeff says all the info I can absorb. I love that. We also have plenty of other resources. If you go to communityboost.org/blog, we've done multiple webinars about Facebook ads and have a bunch of blogs as well. So I think that's a good resource to jumpstart your learning.
Thanks for that website, Eric. Because I Googled it in the beginning and nothing popped up. So appreciate that.
Suzanne, I just put the link to our website and blog, and as well for all the other attendees. It's a great resource for continued learning. Cool. I'm excited to have all of you here. Let's go ahead and get into it. This session is Facebook and Instagram ads, how to make them work for your nonprofit in 2020. So again, we love to get as much context as possible here before we start the presentation, just to understand exactly who we're speaking to and to make sure we're answering your questions as effectively as possible. So we're gonna go ahead and launch a poll just asking about your experience with Facebook ads and kind of where you're at in the spectrum from absolutely loving the platform and getting all the results you're looking for to they'll never work for our nonprofit. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch the poll. And we'll give it about 30 seconds to vote. Cool. We're seeing a lot of we believe in the platform, but have never been able to see positive return from our ads. That definitely makes sense. It's in line with a lot of the results we've seen in the past. No one says Facebook and Instagram ads will never work for our nonprofit. That's good because this presentation is about how to make them work for your nonprofit. And then one person is seeing really good results and are happy with them. That's awesome. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing the results so you can see the majority of people were saying that we believe in the platform but have never been able to see positive return from our ads. Great. That's what this presentation is for. So quick little intros. My name is Eric. I'm on the demand generation here at Community Boost. I've managed Facebook campaigns for some of our biggest clients, and I also run Facebook ads for Community Boost itself. So odds are for some of you, if you're on this webinar, you might have found out about it or joined from a Facebook ad that I served you. So we're excited to get into it.
Thanks for that, Eric. And my name is Ernie Civic. I am the Senior Ad Specialist and our Area Practice Manager here at Community Boost. Between myself and Eric, we managed a ton of successful campaigns that went on to help thousands of people around the world. So we're truly honored and to be sharing some of our success with you all today and hopefully providing you with exceptional information to take your Facebook marketing to the next level. And hearing some of your comments in chat, I hope we can answer some of those questions today also for you.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, we're keeping time at the end for Q&A. So just if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A or the chat panel. And we'll save time at the end to get to those specific ones. But I also want to lead with another question. What is marketing to you? Just go ahead and put in the chat what marketing means to you and your organization. reaching the right audience at the right time, engaging community to use our products, creating community awareness, storytelling. Awesome. Yeah, these are all really good. Definitely agree with all of those. To us at Community Boost, marketing is about gaining actual attention and especially traction, not just impressions. Because we're in a time in 2020 when we can't afford waste marketing spend and dollars ineffectively. We have to market where people's attention is actually at, and that is online and on mobile. And if we're trying to market to people online and on mobile, one of the best channels and platforms to do that is through Facebook and Instagram ads. Some statistics, high level, in Q1 of 2020, 2.6 billion people use Facebook. And in North America, the average time on social media is over 2 hours per day. Now, if you ask my girlfriend or maybe Ernie on TikTok, those hours per day numbers might be a little bit higher. But regardless, if we're looking at a platform that takes 2+, 3+ hours a day of our attention, that's the place where we need to show up. Where else are we spending, multiple hours a day and not having advertisers on the platform? And to go even further, Facebook and Instagram reach 40% of the world's population and 75% of high income earners. So for people wondering, are my target donors, target supporters on the platform? Yes, they are. And to go even further, to just think about this for a moment, no other movement, religion, book, platform in the history of man has reached as many people as the Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp platform. So again, your donors are on there, and we're going to dive into exactly how to reach them and connect with them. And it's been validated as a fundraising platform as well. Over 3 billion on Facebook directly. That's not including Facebook ads sending to a website to raise money. That's just Facebook fundraisers alone. So $1 billion with a B. It's an incredibly validated platform. And the reason, as more advertisers and fundraisers have adopted the platform, and while not as many new users have adopted the platform, but we're still seeing average revenue per user increase, is because, in a word, it's because of data. Facebook and Instagram have pixels across the internet, and throughout their billions of active users, they understand almost better than anyone else exactly who your target donors are and exactly how to show your creative spending your advertising dollars effectively and better than honestly any other platform that we're using. And it works for our own clients at Community Boost as well. So since we started managing Facebook ads, managed over $2.6 million in ads across over 100+ clients. And we've generated an average of a 2.4x return on ad spend. So that means for clients, on average, when they put in $1 in Facebook ads, they get $2.40 out, which if we can find another platform that we can do that in, we would love to, but this has been the most effective one that we've seen. And this is a return on ad spend number that's only counting donations. It's not counting volunteer applications, pet adoptions for humane societies, ad shares, the virality effect. And again, it's on average. So for some clients, we see return on ad spends being as high as 58x, 100x. So let's put in $1 and get $100 return. And it's a trend that's only accelerating. This is Facebook's quarterly advertising revenue. And again, it's only going up. The platform is only being adopted by more and more advertisers and more nonprofits. So the time to get started really now, because if we wait too long, ad costs will continue to rise and it'll continue to become saturated. We'll have to look elsewhere to get valuable underpriced attention. And again, you guys understand this. We just ran that poll and most of you were in the yellow quadrant here, which is that we aren't seeing the results we want to, but we believe in the channel's potential. This is a poll that we ran at our nonprofit marketing summit of around 2,500 attendees, and they're all in basically the same place, which is we believe in the channel's potential. We know that it can work. We just don't know exactly how. So that's what we're going to get into with Ernie's expert advice in these coming 5 tips. So the takeaways are going to be why they're so powerful. We'll jump into 2 case studies really quickly about how our clients use them for a recurring giving program and a virtual event. And then we'll jump into our 5 tips to make them work for your nonprofit. And again, we're going to leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat in the Q&A panel. And we also definitely encourage, if we don't answer all of your questions here, to schedule what we're offering at the end, which is a one-on-one free strategy session for all of our attendees. I'll pass it off. And again, here we have some resources. We'll send this deck over after the webinar as well, but we have a lot of resources at our website, which I posted in the chat on blogs. And then we have the steps to launching your campaign. And yes, Eric, this webinar will be available as a recording. We'll send over the recording afterwards. And with that, we'll get into it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Eric. Not that you got everyone so sleepy. I think it's going to be my job to bring back the excitement of what Facebook can really do. And let's take a look at some of these few amazing nonprofits that use Facebook's hyper-targeting to reach their donors when it really mattered. If you go on our website, you're going to see, a ton of stories, but, here's two of them that I personally and Eric have worked on that we really, fell in love with the mission and want to share with you all. So EL Education's mission is to create classrooms where teachers can fulfill their highest aspirations and students achieve more than they think possible while becoming active contributors to building a better world. Every year, EL Education has a in-person event where they unpack lessons while supporting materials and preparing to bring them to life. This year, the event had to be virtual to ensure safety for all educators. EL Education decided to keep the ticket pricing the same, but they want to utilize Facebook's targeting system to reach their audience. With a budget of $1,500, our team crafted campaigns that would reach their target audience while also controlling that cost per acquisition. This allowed us to sell 100% of the tickets while keeping our cost per result under $3, which gave EL Education a 95% increase in revenue. All of this from $1,500. Can we not say Facebook doesn't work? As you can see from some of these numbers here, over 36,000 people have been reached, over 1,600 link clicks have been generated. It truly does work if you know how to market it correctly, but also if you have the data to kind of understand what your people want to see, what your donors want to see, and how to engage them. As you can see from some of these ad examples as well, the likes and comments and shares, all those things are so valuable when building this giant funnel, that when it comes time to ask, you can kind of gather all of that to kind of have an end result as EL Education. Next one on the list is Souls for Souls. Souls for Souls turns unwanted shoes and clothing into opportunities. Their team wanted to market their new recurring giving campaign, Step Up, and use Facebook and Instagram ads along with other channels to promote it. We analyzed the user data and came up with a few solutions that we thought would work. As you can see, we spent a little over $15,000 and generated $20,000 in one-time donations. One-time donations was not our actual goal. We did activate 177 users to give the program about $30 per month, totaling to $3,147 in recurring monthly revenue that they can predict and count on, especially in those slower months. With a monthly recurring retention rate of 83%, our team, along with the Souls for Souls team, felt very accomplished. Because of this, our campaigns, 20,000 kids are running around right now with shoes. The impact that Facebook has on donors and potential donors is extraordinary. There are so many active users scrolling through their newsfeed, looking up funny memes, or if you're like me, looking up at funny cat videos, that it just makes sense for you to be there and draw some attention to your mission. And when I looked at our chats earlier today, a lot of it was drive awareness and drive that engagement and just let people know you exist. You just have to get out there and put your information out there. There's so many ways to do it, but just by being out there is one step closer to that end result. And we're going to show you today how to really ensure that that first step is a big one as well, as we drive into these 5 tips for Facebook and how they're going to work for your nonprofit. Tip number 1. Compelling creative. People are getting bombarded with ads. Stand out, and most importantly, do what Facebook wants. I do this in our trainings all the time. I tell all of our new team members, like, hey, this is what Facebook wants. There's no reason for us to fight it. Let's learn how to work with it. So Facebook wants positive engagement on their platform. This means your ads should be short, mobile friendly, and most importantly, appealing to the emotion of your targeted audience. As you can see from these examples here, the headlines at the bottom, that gray section, are short, meaning they get right to the point. The text above we're testing some things, but majority of it is very short. And the reason for that is, one, our attention spans, 2020, and as we get into the future, our attention spans are getting smaller and smaller, or shorter and shorter. So we want to make sure that we get to the point, let people know exactly what's going on, and then move on. If I'm laughing, seeing a funny cat, and this pops up, this will get my attention and get me to move on. It's not going to be a long paragraph that I have to read, which, again, if I have to go 2-3 sentences in, it's probably going to lose me and I'm going to leave. So try to stick with these methods when it comes to your creative. Try to keep it short and try to always think mobile friendly, since most of the users on these social platforms are on their phones anyway.
Awesome. Thanks, Ernie. It's definitely one of the standout features of Facebook and Instagram ads that you can show videos and creative to people and actually tell your story, especially as nonprofits with really powerful stories. Using video to do that is really effective. But we'll get into step 2, which is to measure what matters. So again, what makes Facebook and Instagram ads impactful and better than a lot of other fundraising channels is that you can actually measure exactly how effective are. So if we look here, this is inside the Facebook Ads Manager platform, and you can see by audience, so by new potential donors, by a donor list that we uploaded, by people who have engaged with our ads but not visited our website, by people who have visited our website, etc., times 1,000. You can see by each of these audiences how many people our ads have reached. Of those, how many clicked the ads. Of those, how many people visited our website, and how many actually completed the action we wanted to complete. So for this campaign, it's donations. So we can see that we this much money in this audience to generate 108 purchases, spending $2.50 per purchase. And then we can calculate an overall return on ad spend number. And then we can go to our board or anyone else and say, listen, this channel is working. We're putting in $1 and getting in $3 back. Can we scale and can we raise more money for our cause and generate awareness? And then you can also make decisions, ads specifically. Here you can see with the image on the bottom, I don't even know how many ads this is, but 20 plus, all with super slight variations in the headline has one word that's different, or there's an emoji and there's not an emoji in another one, or the copy on top of the ad is a little bit different, or a different video. And you can see how people react differently to those slight tweaks. And then you can continue to optimize for the best results. And then eventually you find one ad that's like your flagship ad that outperforms all the other ones, and be able to scale to get much better results. And again, the further we go with tracking and being able to measure exactly what matters to us, we can be able to make valuable decisions that are like, we're willing to spend more on this child sponsor. We're willing to pay $100 for a child sponsor that donates $50 on her first donation because we know her lifetime value will be $2,100. And we'd rather do that than spend $20 on a year-end donor through Facebook who donates $100 his first time, but only has a lifetime value of $300. So this is a pretty simple example that a lot of you guys understand, but it's just the more we get into using data to inform our decision-making, the more we can feel confident from the data that Facebook is giving us, and we're able to scale our results on the platform. There's a bunch of resources that we can send you on our website about exactly how to set up the Facebook pixel and all the tracking, but the main part is understanding that we want to use data in all of these decisions.
Awesome, thanks for that. And yeah, that was so huge. I think some of the organizations that's even sent our stuff in the chat earlier, I was looking you guys up, and some were missing the pixel, and we'd be more than happy to kind of show you how to even set that up. That's such a huge missed opportunity, just that alone. So tip number 3, personalization. This is something really important that I talk to, again, our new team members, when people come on board, I'm like, this is so important, but it's something I also am a true believer in. I think if you can personalize your ads and you can speak to the people correctly and listen to them and make decisions based on what the data is telling you, you're going to be, 10 steps ahead than most individuals or most organizations, I would say. So really important here is to speak to your audience. Too often we see ads that are written for no one. Good example of that is, imagine if you're a family of 6 in need of a van. You walk into a car dealership and the sales guy takes you right to the sports car section. Before you know it, boom, You're in a new Mustang and you're wondering, how the heck am I going to fit these 6 kids inside this car? Don't be that salesperson. Don't be that business. Ask questions, understand what your audience wants, speak to them and address them accordingly. If we are targeting donors, start your ad with "Dear Donor." Why not? Let them know this is for you. Let them know. You know who you're targeting. We know who we're targeting. Why not speak to those individuals? Learn to speak to your donors depending where they're at in your funnel also. If someone is new to your mission, you may want to tell your story before you ask them for a donation. Send them to the About Us page. Send them to what you did last year, all the great things your organization has done before you ask them to follow you or even donate. If someone engaged with your content, then you may want to ask them to share your post with their friends and family. This is typically what they're comfortable with since they're obviously engaging with your stuff. So your goal is to build community and trust before asking them to give anyway. And when they share things, most people have 200 to 500 new friends. That's free marketing right there. And for your donors, send them a thank you. Something that we like to do at Community Boost is we do a lot of thank you ads, and people thought we were crazy for trying it out. And what's crazy about it, that it sometimes worked better than our actual donation ads. And the reason why is because people love being appreciated. They love to be thanked and they love to be acknowledged. So for your donors, send them a thank you ad or an update on their donation. What did the organization achieve based on their support? Help engage your donors, build more trust between the two of you, and let them know, hey, every time you give, this is what happens. And we don't see that as often as we should. And like I said, I love seeing thank you ads. And when we started running that kind of a strategy and campaign, it worked so well for almost every organization we work with. And the comments and the shares are unbelievable. So that's just one good way to just connect with your audiences and really see, when to ask them for money, but then also to see what they truly want to see and what they want to talk to you about anyway.
Awesome. So important that we personalize our messaging to each part of the donor journey. If you guys want specific advice on how we can do that, and also with other channels, again, we're super happy to schedule one-on-one time. You can just visit our website, community.org/let's talk, and schedule time there, and we can go deep with you on how do we reach donors top of funnel with Facebook and the Google ad grant, and then how do we retarget them with Facebook and then email, and use all the channels together. But we'll go ahead and get into tip 4, which is they're not your donors. We have to always be marketing to our own donors through Facebook and Instagram ads. We can use dynamic intent-based. We can upload specific donor lists, and in the end, will increase donor retention. The reason for this is that we need to think about, where our donors are online. And gone are the days when we can send an email appeal to our whole donor list and reach all of them. Emails, unfortunately, have around a 20% open rate and minimal responsiveness. So it's not okay for a fundraising appeal just to rely on email and only reach 20% of our donors. Because there's another 80% that would probably love to donate, but just didn't see the email because their inbox is flooded, and because they're just busy. So we need to be able to reach them on platforms like Facebook. Direct mail is another channel that some of our clients have seen good results in, but again, minimal responsiveness. COVID is definitely affecting true open rates, and it's really, really expensive, and you can't test or get as much feedback as you can with Facebook and Instagram ads. And then the third place where your donors might be, the third owned channel that we can take advantage of as nonprofits, is SMS, which does have great open rates. It has like 95% plus open rates and incredibly high responsiveness and community building. But I venture to guess that most of the people on this call don't have lists built for SMS, and it takes a lot of list building. So in the meantime, in the coming month and a half, when we're running year-end fundraising appeals, like the place to reach your donors really is Facebook and Instagram ads. And it's really easy to do. We just pull a CSV file of our donors, first name, last name, email, phone number, and then zip code if we have it, or address info, and we upload all of that to Facebook. And then Facebook matches that data to data of people who are already in the platform. Then it can show ads to your donors. Also, if we have your pixel on the site, we can track people who have, stayed on a certain amount of time and people who have donated, and then we can retarget ads to them as well, considering that those are your donors and those are the people who are most likely to donate again. And then, and again, with those technicalities, we're happy to schedule one-on-one time to go through exactly how to do that. It can be a little bit complicated, but really incredibly worth it when you think about the results. And then in the gratitude gets donations. Ernie talked about this earlier as well. But when we spend time to show in front of potential supporters and donors, and all we do is thank them, we've actually seen great results. And by great results, I mean positive return on ad spend. So we'll spend money to thank our donors because and they've taken time and money out of their day and paycheck to donate to our cause, and we take time to show ads to them to thank them, which is just what we should be doing as humans with our donors. And we end up seeing positive return on ad spend, which is super interesting. So this, if we have one thing we can take out of this session, honestly, with year end approaching, if we're running any year end fundraising appeals on Facebook, it would be to get ads thanking your donors up and running relatively soon, because it also generates really valuable engagement with the ads. So we can see like this ad with Cancer Research Institute on the left had 593 people react to it and 42. Those are all people who took time out of their scrolling to stop and like the ad. That means they're more likely and they have a higher intent to donate once the fundraising appeal comes around. And we can create audiences in Facebook where we take that valuable engagement, we target them with a donation appeal, and we often see incredibly high return on ad spend numbers for those donors that have been warmed up like that. And again, there's no other place to reach them unless we have a built SMS list. Like we're not going to find them on email or in direct mail. And then into our final tip, which is tip 5, always be testing. So never do we want to make a decision from a focus group of one, is a phrase we have here. Always let the donor decide. And then always continue to test targeting creative campaigns and appeals to targeted segments to see which ones work best. This is something that community boost, we call it the creative eddy. So if any of you have been in an eddy before, you feel like you're moving because there's water moving in a river and you feel like you're making progress, but really you're just going in a circle. You're not making progress downstream, which to us is generate more donations, fundraise better, build awareness, grow our nonprofit. Instead, we're just sitting in this creative eddy asking ourselves, what headline should we use for this ad, or what image should we use for this campaign? Again, if we're running like a TV ad, that makes sense, right? We have one shot at goal. If we're running a direct mail appeal, we have one letter we can send. With Facebook ads, we have 500 plus shots on goal. We can test 500 different variations and find the one that works the best. We say, what type of creative should we use? I don't know, let the donor decide. Test a bunch of different headlines, test a bunch of different creative, and see which ones resonate best. What frequency should we use in ads? What targeting should we use? Let the donor decide. You know, what targeting should we use? Let the donor decide. And you can see all of this data that ends up justifying your decisions of what audiences work best. And then you can double down on those. You can go to your board member, if they're the decision maker that's holding back more budget for Facebook ads, and say, look, this is what's working. There's strong data, but let's move forward.
Thank you for that, Eric. Yeah, and to recap the 5 steps, step 1, they're not based in any order, but they're not your donors. All too often we do hear there are donors, they'll give to us. Not necessarily true. They're being targeted by everybody. So don't fall victim to thinking they're gonna give to you just because they're on your list. Stay top of mind, stay present, let them know how things are going. And when Giving Tuesday, year end, or that special time comes around, that's when you can ask them to give. But before that, you've engaged and you've kind of kept them warm and you kept that community going. Measure what matters. So important to ensure that you are tracking your results. We have a whole analytics team that we work with where, we take a week sometimes to just make sure that we track every little step. If someone sees an ad or views an ad or clicks on an ad, we want to know what they do, where do they drop off, and why. Is it your donation page? Is it your About Us page? What is getting them to your site intrigued, but also what's getting them to leave? What's missing? And to tie all that up, to make sure that what is our dollar per value? What are we getting out of that? If we spend 10, what are we getting back? That's really important, as Eric mentioned, to ensure that we can scale and get those donation goals and reach them. Compel a creative. It's really important. Stand out. There's so many ads out in the world, and a lot of your donors are being targeted by everybody. So stand out and show the the ads and the images and the videos that they want to see. There's no need to just, follow the same process that everyone is doing. Stand out, show awesome creative, show your organization, show your true self. That always works the best. Personalization wins, as I mentioned. Don't be the car salesman that doesn't ask questions and just puts people into whatever they think is best. Listen to your donors. Eric mentioned it earlier. Listen to the data. It's crazy, but when you look at Facebook's and you look at that, business manager, I know it can seem overwhelming, but you can literally take the time to see how many people are you reaching? How much is it costing you to reach them? How many of them are clicking on your ads? What are their landing page views? Like, what's happening? Look at that data and really understand, this is what they want. How can I give them this? And it kind of just ties in with that always be testing, because there's so many different variations of that. And while having all those audiences and all those different things you can track and all the values you can convert, having different type of ad copies, bright images versus dark images, long copy versus short, so many different possibilities there to really find out what exactly works. That family of 6 really needed a van, but he's not in a Mustang, and that didn't work. So it's like, how do we connect all that together to ensure that the client gets what it wants, but also the organization gets to support their mission? And Facebook is going to give that data to you as long as you're willing to just utilize best practices and really put them to work. And then right before we end this, I just want to mention, we do know this is really top level stuff, and every organization is very specific. And I'm looking at the chat, I'm seeing all the questions. I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you all and sit down and do a scheduled one-on-one strategy session where myself and Eric can help you identify those pain points, work through those pixels, and even explain more in detail what that means. Because I also understand, as the trainings I went through Facebook, it takes a very long time to get it all, and Facebook is constantly updating. I think the new newsfeed version is horrendous. Like, I don't know where to go with it. It's crazy. So I totally understand all the changes that are happening. So please don't be afraid, or feel free to just book that one-on-one if you need it, and we'll walk you through everything as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Ernie. So we'd love to open it up to Q&A. Again, I know that this is someone here to answer all of your questions, and you can have more specific questions maybe you don't want to share with an entire webinar audience. So I'd love to schedule time to do a Q&A, or a live one-on-one strategy session. We do have a poll to make it easy for you guys. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch a poll, and you can answer if you'd like a one session with one of our consultants, and we'll reach out after the webinar. But in the meantime, please put all of your specific questions in the chat and in the Q&A panel, and we'd love to get to answering those.
And Amy, I see your question here. What is it? What do fees look like for consultations? Honestly, I think our team will just sit down with you and actually go through the entire process and see exactly what's missing and what you should be doing. There's no fees associated with that. The idea is for us to help and make sure that your organization is, set up for the best, future. With so many changes happening on Facebook, Instagram, Google, like everywhere. We're just trying to give away this information to make sure that you all feel, empowered to make sure that, you can succeed.
100%. I'll go ahead and take this question. Amy asked, my org is looking for suggestions on how to boost fundraising because we've always done in-person donations to sustain ourselves. I definitely, if we have any data from in-person donations, any donor data specifically, we can use that to target these people in virtual environments. Because of COVID, people are so much more willing to attend a virtual event when they wouldn't have been otherwise, or a virtual 5K or a virtual fundraiser. So again, if we have those donor lists, we can just upload those lists into Facebook and then target them with specific donor appeals. Another pro of this is that we can increase the reach nationwide, as opposed to just in the geographic radius of our nonprofit. We've seen really good results for this with a nonprofit that we opened up a virtual event promotions nationwide. And we just looked into their analytics and we saw that they got a lot of their donations from the East Coast and the Southwest when their nonprofit was located in Oregon. And so we just increased the reach nationwide to all their donors, and we actually doubled their attendance and increased their revenue year over year. So those, I think, are some good strategies. Ernie, if you have any more advice, Amy.
Yeah. So, I mean, online fundraising is huge. Since you only done in person, I think you're gonna really love the digital world of fundraising. Facebook has done a tremendous job of like setting this up, through Facebook fundraisers. There's no fees associated with it, so everything that does get fundraised goes directly to you. We do a ton of different types of fundraisers where we engage, birthday fundraisers and all these other things that are possible as well. So I think the biggest thing is just honestly jumping into it, but I would 100% focus on, Facebook fundraisers and kind of rolling with some of the thank you and, what is it? Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas, you have these different holidays that you can use to kind of spin the messaging for fundraising as well. And again, it doesn't cost people anything. A typical fundraiser does about $200. It raises about $200. So they succeed, like 95% of the time based on the spend that you put behind them. So definitely, I would definitely recommend that.
100%.
I do see, what was it? I did see a question here. Now I lost it.
I got one. Mariah said, what are some ways to engage with volunteers digitally when your organization relies heavily on in-person volunteer events for support? Again, we kind of hit on this. Increasing reach nationwide using Facebook ads with uploaded donor lists is super effective. You can create lookalike audiences off of those donor lists to reach new people. And then the virtual event can be as simple as hosted on a Zoom, like this webinar. A lot of, again, like people who had no idea what Zoom was were forced to adopt it since the pandemic. And so there are also a lot of really interesting ways to use Zoom to really step up our creative campaign ideas. So we saw one of our clients use Zoom to connect the beneficiaries of donations with the donors themselves. So kids in Pakistan who are being sent to donors' donations, getting on a Zoom call with donors that the donors probably wouldn't have known how to get on before, but now they do. And then they're able to thank the donors directly for their donations. So ideas like that are all super interesting.
Yeah, I found my question. It was from Beth. Did the thank you ad go to the whole donor list or just the donors that responded to a particular campaign? Really good question. So we'll do both. In the beginning, we'll send thank you ads to everybody or every donor, everyone that engaged. And the reason for that is to build engagement, but also to let them know that you're thanking them. And this sometimes enforces the old donors that have not given in the past to remind them that you exist and that you're thankful for them. And we see a lot of times that those people tend to come back and give larger amounts at times as well too. So we typically send it to everyone that's given, but then based on a campaign, after that, we're retargeting people. And then from there, depending on who donates and who does what, we then target those people specifically by, again, personalizing the text to each group properly.
Yeah, definitely. Anjali says, how do you target the people who have interacted with your ads to say thank you? So we can go into in the Facebook ads manager, when you have an ad set and you go into building your audience, you can build an audience based off of engagement. And it's kind of hard to explain without sharing my screen, but if you, again, if you reach out for a strategy session, we're happy to go into detail on that. But you basically just go into audiences and then create new audience, and then off of page engagement, and you can target people who have engaged with your ads. You can go as in detail as people who have clicked on your ads, and then exclude people who have donated. So someone who've engaged with your ad but didn't make the final act of donating, and then you can try to spur their final donation. You can just people who engaged with their ads and didn't visit your website. There's a bunch of stuff. Honestly, the best way to do it is just to roll up your sleeves and become a practitioner and just dive into the platform and learn. And then Google is a fantastic resource for all of the really technical and interesting questions.
Yeah. Susan also asked, what is an average budget for Facebook ads for an NPO with fundraising goal of 200K? It's a really good question. It honestly depends. it's funny, we've had campaigns that we spent, $500 and brought back 100,000, and we had campaigns we spent $500 and brought back 1,000. So it really depends on the strength of your audience and your donors, and also the type of what you ran in the past. Something that we could do, if Susan, if you did one of those one-on-one sessions, is we could actually sit down and figure out exactly the strength of the audiences and kind of see what we can project based off of your $200,000 goal, and we can kind of go from there. But to nail down exact budget is going to be difficult without knowing some of that history and some of that data, or without us diving into it, kind of looking into it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. John Carlos, how will this Facebook fundraising sync with existing infrastructure like expensive CRM software we use to manage donors/supporters? I would love, John, if you can put in the chat what CRM you're using specifically. There are certain CRMs that integrate extremely well with Facebook advertising, and we can see exactly how much donors have donated to date and target specific segments differently. If we can't do that, we can just pull lists from our CRMs and then target. And we can also use a software called Zapier that has a really cool tool where basically it integrates with almost any software. So if we run Facebook lead ads, which are ads that pop up a lead form on Facebook for someone to put in their information, the second someone puts in their information, it'll automatically send that info into the CRM as a new lead for your development staff to reach out to. Oh, looks like he said every action. Ernie, do you have experience with every action?
I don't have experience with every action. I'm pretty sure our analytics team, Levac, will. But what I would do is, I'm about 95, maybe 98% sure Zapier will have it. But when it comes to Facebook fundraisers, we're not going to be able to export them into a CRM right away, because when someone sets up a fundraiser, there's like a length of time they're available. And then Facebook also gives you a 3-week time frame before the money is distributed. And then that report becomes available to be sent out to the CRM. So our team can just jump in and take a look at it, but I believe Zapier will have it and you'd be good to go.
Mm-hmm. That's for fundraising. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's also something that our team would work on connecting for you. So that way, you're not losing your head trying to figure out all the technical clicks and things like that.
Yeah, been there. And that's for fundraising on fundraiser, not using Facebook ads to send to a fundraiser that you have on your website.
Yeah. Talissa, my organization likes to use ads to reach our target market for programs. You noted that Facebook can help reach 75% of high income earners. Do you have data for low income earners, which happens to be our market? Yeah, definitely. So Facebook actually allows us to target high and low income earners. Really depends. We work with a ton of organizations where we do target low income earners as well. To be honest with you, it all works pretty relatively the same. Because you kind of work on that personalization aspect of it and you really work on that marketing end of things. So as long as you're able to come up with a way to address the audiences accordingly, it's going to be, it's going to work. No exact hard data as to how well they work based on whatever the goals are. But obviously when it comes to, high donation numbers, you're going to see, smaller donations from that group potentially. But when it comes to signing for leads or signing for subscriptions or food drives and things like that, we see a lot of success behind those things. So it just sort of depends what the goal is, what the action is, and something our team can jump into and help consult on that idea of, hey, you have a goal for maybe your goal for reaching $1 million with this specific target market may not work, but we could use this market to do something else with it. So there's definitely something we can plan and look at.
Definitely. And also, as far as targeting by income or by any other specific characteristics of your target market, the more data we give to Facebook of who's likely to take valuable actions, whether that's donate or volunteer, the easier it becomes for Facebook to use the data points it has to find new people who are likely to do the same thing. So we don't even have to target, say, we want to target people of a certain income bracket in this neighborhood who like dogs. Instead, if we have enough people who are of a certain income bracket who like dogs who have donated to us, we can just say, Facebook, make a lookalike audience of people who are also likely to do this to take this valuable action. And it's like incredibly powerful at finding those people. Like we'll often see where we're happy with losing money on bringing in a new donor because they're valuable enough to the company or to the nonprofit. We'll see that we actually have a positive return on ad spend for people who have never heard of our organization before. So if the creative is good enough and it's sent to the perfect person, they'll click straight from an ad and donate immediately because it's that powerful, which is something that, again, like I've only seen happen through really Google and Facebook ads. Does anyone else have any questions? You have time protected with Ernie Civic, a Facebook ads wizard. So I would take advantage of it and ask as many questions as you can.
Use it up. I do want to answer Anjali's question too in regards to the pixel. He definitely wants more information on it. So just to give you a little heads up, I did look at some of the organizations as you guys were coming in. A lot of them were missing pixels on your site. And I did say I was going to touch a little bit on for you all, but the Facebook pixel essentially is a code that gets placed on your website via Google Tag Manager or through the site itself. And what it does, it allows you to one, gather all the people that are visiting your website, kind of put them in a little pool. But also it starts to kind of tell you, it kind of maps out where they're going once they hit your homepage or whatever page. So what's really cool about the pixel is it allows for retargeting, which is going to be your warmest audience aside from your donors that can be retargeted to ask for a donation and to, present something. But it also is a great tool to just build an audience of, 2, 3, 5,000 monthly website visitors that now you have at your disposal to, target and let them know how your organization is doing, how your mission is doing. But also grab the ones that are just visiting your page and not going to the volunteer section. They're not going to the donate section. They're not going to learn about our mission or our cost section, right? Maybe they're just going to your page and they just don't fully get it. It's a great way to look at that data and say, all right, here's, 2,000 individuals that are going to our homepage, but not going anywhere else. Let's retarget them. And the ad they're going to see is last week's, adoption of the month. And that kind of stuff really helps start building that community and that impact amongst your followers, where it creates a lot of success and where Facebook really wants that positive engagement, which will reward you with extremely low cost per acquisitions, where, you can spend way less money and get more in return.
Yeah, 100%. And even if we're not running ads yet, the Facebook pixel is gathering all that data that becomes extremely useful once we do start running ads. And it takes, 15 minutes to set up on the site, even less. So again, even if we're not running ads, like that's the step one to set ourselves up for success when we do flip that switch on. Let's see. Susan said, can we target an audience that would benefit from our services? Are there target opportunities beyond money? Yeah, Susan, I'd love if you just clarify a little bit of what your services are. But in the meantime, from a broad perspective, absolutely. We run ads for all types of nonprofits, and obviously not all of them have the sole goal of donations. Like we'll run ads for nonprofits who want to get awareness of their cause out, or build advocacy for a certain issue, ones that are trying to drive volunteers. You said for individuals with varying disabilities. Yeah, we definitely can. And depending on what type of existing data we have, we can find people who are likely to benefit from your services. And then it's just normal lead gen. And yeah, definitely easy to build lists of people who would benefit from your services and then hand that over to your like sales or development staff, or even to get them completely to fill out inquiry forms on your website. I don't know, Ernie, if you have any other advice on running ads for services for people.
Yeah, 100%. So, Facebook, I think we talked about it earlier, the hyper targeting on Facebook is insane. So there's a ton of individuals that actually have specific interests with, various disability services or disabilities themselves that we can target and kind of nurture into, becoming a follower of your org or being, performing whatever the action may be. But going even with the lead generation is something that I'm a huge fan of, which is on Facebook. all they have to do is click a button. Everything gets auto-populated in the form and gets sent right to your CRM, and then an email that you have set up goes directly to the user. All happens simultaneously at the same time, and it works extremely well. And it's very cheap. I'll say it doesn't cost a lot because we're keeping people on Facebook, and Facebook likes that. So there's definitely a lot there. I think connecting on seeing what exactly the goal is, or the objective. Is it people with disabilities to sign up and do something, or is it someone that has maybe a relative or a friend with a disability and you want them to do some sort of action? It'll be really good to look into that, and then we can make a decision on what will be the best strategy going for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then see, what was it? So we have donors and clients with 2 separate Facebook pages and 2 websites. How do we make sure they're going to the correct pages? Yeah, so a lot of that is with links, making sure that the ads that are being clicked on are targeting to the same page. But having 2 pages or websites, you can still connect the same pixel to both, which I would recommend, just so for data, unless they're 2 different causes, and that would be a little different. But overall, we can connect the same pixel or the same tracking to the same 2 websites. And then, from there we can figure it out. And as far as having 2 pages, nothing, abnormal there. Most orgs, or I would say some of the orgs that we work with, do have 2 pages. I personally am a fan of having 1. The reason why is because when you're targeting or retargeting the page visitors or just people engaged, it makes your life a lot easier because you have a giant pool of people versus having like small segmented groups. At the end of the day, you want to play a really smart game of probability. So if you have 2 pages and you have 100 people here and 100 there, it's going to be a little more difficult to personalize the 2 versus having them all in one, send like 3-4 different ads and kind of A/B test which one they're responding to the best to find a great happy middle, and then kind of go from there. It's a lot easier for scalability purposes, but also it allows you to get all your warm audiences into one to then kind of define what exactly they want to see. And that's also something we can talk about a little bit more, or if we need to, link the pages together or whatever the case may be there.
Definitely. Let's see.
Targets both caregivers and caregivers. Constance has mine targets both caregivers and care receivers. A need for volunteers as well as besides money. I tried Facebook before, but it was ineffective. How can this? Yeah, this is actually, it's a really good question. So Eric is an expert in getting volunteers. We have an organization. Can't remember their name right. Oh, All Hands and Hearts, that Eric worked on specifically for volunteers and crushed it. So volunteers are actually really big. There's so many Facebook interests when it comes to people that just love volunteering. So one, dissecting those audiences and breaking them down to your specific mission and cause, and then making sure that they want to volunteer. And then from there, really linking it to keep them on Facebook and going through a lead gen. It's probably going to be the best way. I think it's going to work extremely well. Again, it's going to be super low cost. It's really up to you on the budget you want to spend there, but it could work really well. I think every lead gen we've done work for volunteers has worked really well. I haven't had one that hasn't, just because there's just so many targeting options and there's so many people probably already visiting that website or that specific URL where your volunteers are, that we could probably just retarget that page and we'd get a lot of success too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to remember, like, people when they're supporting a cause, they either give time, treasure, or talent. And those are the same people, just depending on what they have, if they have talent to give or treasure to give or time to give. So it's interesting for this organization, we were running donation appeals, but saw a lot of the people that through a donation appeal actually end up volunteering or submitting a volunteer application because they didn't have money to donate, but they didn't have treasure to donate, but they had time to donate in the terms of volunteering. So we can keep it relatively broad, and we can target, a broad audience of people who have engaged with our Facebook posts and content in the past. And then some of those will inevitably go to volunteer and some will donate, which will refund ads to find more potential volunteers. Again, we can target by age as well, if we want to target care receivers, and then for caregivers, there's a bunch of different targeting criteria we can use, interest-based and lookalike audiences. But I think, yeah, I would definitely not get discouraged by the fact that it was ineffective once, because we know that for past clients, it can definitely be effective in terms of driving volunteers, lead gen, and driving awareness other than donations.
Yeah, and
John Kearns asked, is there any? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, just to add to that, I do see that there's no pixel on your site, Constance. So super low hanging fruit there. I would, adding that in would probably show you exactly how many people are visiting your volunteer page. And if obviously the rates are low, a simple retargeting would work really well.
Yeah, definitely. That's the lowest hanging fruit for us, is just retargeting people who have already shown interest. John Kearns asked, is there any way engaging people to come to our holiday store of works by local artists? Absolutely. So first of all, like we said, we can track people who engage with our ads that we show them. We can track people who click through those ads to a website. And then we can track people who click through the website to submit a form to like reserve a time for the holiday store. Or if they have a form they have to submit. If it's just showing ads to people in a local radius and hoping they come into the store, if we can collect people's information once they come into the store, whether it's people who made in-store purchases of the works, or just collect emails at the door of like, do you want to join our email list? Then we can upload those lists to Facebook. It's called offline conversion matching. And the ads manager will match those people who are anonymous because they're cookie through the website of who engage with the ads, and then match those people who actually took your actions in store, and be able to attribute that in-store revenue to people who have seen ads. It's a pretty simple process. You could just Google offline conversion matching for Facebook. I'll show you how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And then John, I do see a different John, but we have two different websites. Do you recommend using the same pixel? So 100%, if the two sites are still connected by the same mission, same goal, and if the organization is the owner of both sites, I would 100% do that. Again, think of it as, I like to think of it as a pool of people. I would rather have all the people in one pool versus two separate ones. Facebook does require a minimum of, I believe it's 200 people now to 300 to retarget. I normally see it about 500 people working the best. So again, the more people you have in your pool, the better quality of retargeting is going to be, and the least problems you'll have. So I would recommend having both on there. And then seeing that you have a large supporter list, that's amazing. There's so many things that you all can do when you have your supporter lists, such as creating valued lookalikes and actual lookalike audiences of those, which will extend that list from 60,000, 10,000 lists to 2.2 million or 4 million people, which is really cool, because I didn't think we touched on it too much, but Facebook does have valued lookalikes, which is individuals who give a certain amount of money, and it'll find people that give that kind of amount based on the list you uploaded, but also will find people that are likely to give as well if you don't have values attached to them, but it will find people likely to give and target those individuals as well. So many opportunities there, but I would try to keep pixels, or just one pixel, just for data and information. Just makes life a lot easier for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't be discouraged by if two websites are slightly different. Like for Community Boost, for example, we have our nonprofit marketing summit that we run. We're having one in February. You should all attend. It's going to be a fantastic time. But we have a separate website for that, nonprofitmarketing.org or .com. And then we also have communityboost.org. But we have the same pixel on both. And we can retarget people who visited the Nonprofit Marketing Summit website specifically by just in the audience manager saying we only want to show ads to people who visit a URL with these characters in it, and the character nonprofitmarketingsummit.org. And so you can do the same thing. If you have different website names, you can just separate your retargeting based on which website URLs they visited. And that goes as granular as on your own website. I want to show different ads to people who visit a volunteer landing page versus a donation landing page, or showed intent for different things there. But cool, this was an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate all the engagement. It's fun answering all these questions. And again, requested a strategy session through the poll. We'll be reaching out afterwards if you haven't yet, you can definitely go to our website and schedule one there. But otherwise, I appreciate it, guys, and I really hope that we start fundraising better on Facebook and Instagram, especially coming into year end. But thank you all so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks all. Hope.
All right. See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. That was awesome.